primaries closed with the majority of the House and Senate at the legislature. So anyway, that's the first thing. If that had been done, all of this other stuff would have been moot.
All right, so what we have are several candidates, and we're primarily discussing District Number 5. What we have are several candidates that were booted off the ballot through the 16, and I guess plus Scott Golden, so 17-member executive committee that I guess it's a subsection of the overall committee that forms the individual.
Yeah, we're talking
District 5.
Lewis County, Marshall County, Murray County, which Murray's the only full, true big county in there, parts of Williamson, parts of Davidson, and the west side of Wilson County.
And those individuals that had anything to do with that were voting on these contested candidates.
Yes.
So there have been suggestions since the vote. Ultimately, Morgan Ortagus, Robbie Starbuck, and Baxter Lee were declared not candidates. Then they had an opportunity, a period by which individuals could come forward and vouch for them. You're one of those vouchers, and we'll talk about that in a second. And ultimately, the 17-member committee voted that the vouchers clearly did not convince them that these three individuals were bona fide Republicans, and so they were permanently removed from the ballot.
Right. That's what they say, yes.
Robbie Starbuck came on my show. I've had an opportunity to speak to Robbie, and I know you know him because,
Robbie, yeah.
and in the interest of disclosure, I met you through Robbie said you should talk to Debbie. She's very informed in Murray County politics, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, Robbie. He's a good guy.
And so he introduced me to you. And Robbie had this to say on my show after the final vote declaring him a non-candidate.
I'd have to be totally blind to, not see that this is a possibility when we've seen the corruption that's gone on for so long now. Everything about this has been corrupt. If you want us to dominate and to be a force for good and for our country to be strong, we need to change the way that this is essentially been allowed to happen. This corruption has to stop.
All right, that's Robbie Starbuck on my show last week calling this corrupt. Here's Morgan Ortagus on Fox News saying much the same thing regarding the process.
Only 20 seconds left, but what's next for you? You going to fight this still, or are you going to move on?
Listen, we're looking at all options, but my life's goal is to stand for a strong America first agenda around the world. This is what I did for President Trump, but I'll continue to do. And we're going to work on efforts to clean up the corruption here in the Tennessee GOP as well.
All right, there you go, Morgan.
All right. So you have two of the three candidates booted off, not saying that this is wrong, not saying that this is crappy, not saying that this is unfair. They're calling it corrupt, and that insinuates that some sort of collusion or some sort of illegality potentially has gone on. Would you go so far as to call it corrupt as well?
I don't think there's something stinky about it. I'll put it like that. Okay. So this is the thing. The bylaws say on page 13 at the very bottom that you either have a primary vote, 3 out of 4, or the big word, or your work in Republican politics, your membership in organizations, money you've donated to candidates, volunteer work you've done on the candidates. It's not both together, and it's not just the primary vote. Those are the bylaws. So let's stay real consistent.
And it's an or.
It's an or. It's either this or that. Okay. Those are the bylaws. So let's look at this. Robbie Starbuck, when he was going to run against Jim Cooper, there was not a Republican that was not out there cheer him on, saying, yeah, we support this guy. Andy Ogles and Gary Humble, two great conservatives, are out there touring with Robbie across the state. I mean, that's where I met Robbie, and the first time that he was out. I mean, I've been seeing him on the ground for 2 years working and campaigning, okay? So now all of a sudden we say that he is not a Republican so let me say this. The residency law is not a bad thing, okay? It only came about because Morgan showed up, let's be honest. And it was rushed through, so let's be honest, okay? But it's not a bad thing. And I will tell you, Tennessee's politics on that will filter through the whole United States. And a residency law, I believe, will be enacted in other states. So that's one thing. But when the governor and the Secretary of State said, this bill didn't go into effect until after the deadline date, so therefore they can be on this ballot, that was supposed to be completely ruled out regarding their verification of bona fides. as a candidate. Okay. So then everybody goes in and all of a sudden people are contesting them. So remember, it's not that you just entered the race, you have to be contested. So let me say this.
Well, let me back up for a second.
Okay.
All right. So candidates file their entry.
Yep.
April 7th deadline.
April 7th at noon.
And someone, in order for all of this to happen, where there's, hey, when did they vote in the primary and all that, someone has to step forward and say, hey, this isn't really a Republican. This is. Who did that for the three candidates?
Well,
do we know?
There's some public record, and Robbie's given me the name of who contested them. I don't know who contested Morgan, and I don't know who contested Baxter Lee.
This sounds like a lot of inside baseball politics.
Because who would know how to contest? I will tell you that I saw another candidate, and I won't say who, but he sent a letter out to his campaign staff and said, I've got a primary opponent. I need 4 of you to do a contesting letter. Okay. So to me, it's like when somebody's contesting, how are they affiliated with other competitors' campaigns? Mm-hmm. I think that needs to be researched. But anyway, once they're contested, then you have to have the vouching set in to verify your other work if the primary is not there, the either or. Okay.
All right. And not to move it forward too quickly, but so someone steps forward and says, hey, I don't think this person's a real Republican.
Right.
And if you don't fulfill the 3 out of 4 primaries,
right,
and then you say or to the satisfaction of the committee, you've done these other things.
All these votes, yes.
Then there's another process by which a Starbuck in this example or a Morgan or Ortega can say, hey, here are some people who are elected GOP members in good standing with this executive committee that can tell you that I'm a bona fide Republican. I'm not a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm not a Democrat. Right. I'm a good Republican. And that's where the vouchers come in.
Yes, and I think Robbie had most chairs or vice chairs of all these counties. From what I understand, he had like 14 vouching letters, which was more than any other candidate ever.
You're the GOP chair of Murray County.
I am now, yes.
And you vouched for it.
I did. Because I had seen his work. I had seen where he had donated. I'd seen him at the border. I watch him on Steve Bannon every morning.
And once again, this is not telling anyone how to vote or anyone who to support.
No.
My frustration, and look, I know you're coming at this clearly from one perspective, and there are other perspectives. I'm willing to listen, but my perspective is this. I think the voters are smart enough to figure all of this out on their own.
Damn straight. Okay, so let's put it this way, okay? There are 2 people that are still on the ballot that have lesser credentials regarding their primary votes or their other stuff, and one has a D vote recently, but they were not contested. So they're still on the ballot. Huh. Now think about that.
All right, we're all going to think about that for a moment. It's 5:22. Our guest is Debbie Matthews out of Murray County. Yeah. She is the chair of the GOP there. And we'll continue the conversation after this on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
This is The Drop.